Why does it affect golfers more than others? That's the point of the question, right? I will give you a definite answer today, so please watch till the end. Hi guys, 안전joy, Mr.Physio here in Australia. Today I'm going to talk about golfer's elbow again. Actually, I've covered this topic before, which has got over 50,000 views now, but there are a lot more to discuss and more exercises to show you. First of all, we need to know why it is called golfer's elbow. A lot of people are curious about why, but all they get told is this one. It happens to golfers more than others. If this is all you've heard of about golfer's elbow, there's pretty high chance that you don't understand what's going on in your elbow. In my last video about golfer's elbow, it was mentioned golfers tend to grab their club very hard through that fourth and fifth fingers here. So this is golfer's grip. Even if you don't play golf, test yourself. Try to grab anything with these two fingers first and compare it with these two finger force. Most of you will find that these two fingers are a lot stronger than the other two fingers, which means you tend to use that outer side of the muscle. Another thing we need to know is Newton's first law. Yes, inertia. Inertia means a moving object keeps moving to the direction it has been, and a stationary object tends to remain at rest unless there is an external force. Imagine you standing on a bus and the bus suddenly moves off. Then your body gets jolted backwards because your body wanted to stay still. That's inertia. The exact same thing happens in a golfer's swing. When they swing, they bring the club all the way up above their head first. That's called pre-swing. At the end of this pre-swing, the club almost stops, as you can see in this picture. And now, let's say the golfer's body is the bus in the previous example, and the club is a kid standing on the bus. Again, at the end of the pre-swing, there is a very short moment when everything stops. The golfer's body doesn't move and the club stays still. From there, the golfer's body initiates a swing by rotating quickly to the other direction, like the bus suddenly moves off. And the club is kind of left behind, like this kid staggering backwards. In that moment, let's say there is another person, myself, with one hand holding onto a pole on the bus and the other hand holding onto the kid's hand. Myself here is the forearm muscle. Now the bus is the golfer's body, the kid is the club, and my arms are the forearm muscles attached between the golfer's body and the club. As the bus moves off all of a sudden, the kid is kind of left behind, almost falling backwards. At that moment, I have to exert really hard through my arms, trying to save the kid like the golfers gripping their club with fourth and fifth fingers. In this example, even though I'm trying to pull the kid back up, my arm will be stretched out for a short moment because the kid was falling onto the other direction, which means my muscles have to fight against that stretching force that's created by the kid falling to that direction. So on top of that, the bus is already pulling me that way, so I have to fight against that stretching force on both sides, right? So that will put an enormous stretch on my body. And in this example, myself is the golfer's forearm muscles. My body is the muscle belly, and my arms are the tendons. So tendons attach your muscles to bones, and they act as a spring. When they stretch out, they restore the energy, elastic energy, and then transmit the energy to the muscles as they get shortened. They're always trying to maintain its original length. So these tendons have to work eccentrically against that stretching force caused by the club. So eccentric contraction is where your muscle length elongates while the muscle tries to contract. Like my arms being stretched out by the bus pulling me forward and by the kid pulling me that way. So forearm tendons are the same. Because of the firm grip through the fourth and fifth fingers, the muscle is already contracted really hard. So the muscle is pulling the tendon away from the bone. From there, you rotate your body really quickly and the club is trying to stay still. So you have to fight against this kind of stretching force. Your body pulls you down, but because of the club weight, your wrist gets pulled that way. So that will put an enormous stretch on the tendon. Because your muscle is already contracting so hard, so it doesn't really get stretched out that much. So most of the elongation or eccentric contraction has to happen around that tendon area. If you have healthy and spring-like tendons, that's okay. But if your tendons are too stiff or too tired due to overuse, it can't control that stretching force anymore and start to give up. And if it can't function 100%, that means it will slowly degenerate. That's how you develop golfer's elbow. But why there are some people developing golfer's elbow without playing golf? My theory is this: your muscle tightness and the compression against the bone can play a role. Let's say you're an office worker using a mouse or keyboard all the time, but these small activities, light activities, can actually make your muscle tight if you have done them 1,000 times or every day. So your tendon function has kind of adapted to that small and light activities, and suddenly you use your tendons in a different environment, like moving furniture, lifting heavy boxes, or starting on a new exercise. So your muscles are already tight, and tendons are used to that small light activities. But when you lift heavy stuff or moving furniture or starting on a new challenging exercises, your muscle has to contract more from that already tight position, right? So that will actually pull the tendon away from the bone more and more, which means you will put more stretch on the tendon than what it can take. And if you're a weightlifter, as you lift your weight, heavy weight all the time, your muscle gets shortened in the middle. So that will again pull the tendon away from the bone. So muscle growth is a lot faster than tendon changes. So the stretching force from that muscle will exceed the tendon's capacity. That's when the golfer's elbow starts in weightlifters. It should be called weightlifter's elbow in that case. So what will help to restore the tendon's function? It's pretty obvious, right? Eccentric exercises. You need to give them what they need because they are struggling with the eccentric control at the moment. That's why we need to give them eccentric exercises, but in a correct manner. Can you improve that eccentric control if you have injections? Of course not. Can electrotherapies or shockwave therapies give you that function back? Never. Even if your damaged tendon gets repaired through a surgery, your tendon function doesn't improve automatically because we are not a robot. We are not Iron Man. They may give you a pain relief for a short to mid-term period, maybe days or months, but it's not a long-term solution. Instead, you need to load the tendon from the beginning. You need to retrain them how to tolerate the stretching force again. You need to teach them like you teach a baby how to walk. Start with a slow, light loading and move on to heavy, faster loading. That's the only and the best way to restore their spring function back. People then ask me, I've suffered for many years. Is there any hope? According to this study, yes, there is. They found more healthy tissues in degenerated tendons than non-symptomatic tendons. Again, they found more good tissues in sore tendons than healthy tendons. This is the chart where they compared normal tendons with pathological tendons. You can see there are more good tissues in pathological tendons than normal tendons. They say pathological tendons have more ability to adapt to the loading. So we need to give them the loading because these good tissues are waiting for us to load. So you don't need to be scared. You don't need to be frightened by the MRI showing you some degenerative changes or partial tear or whatever. I don't even ask my patients to take an ultrasound or MRI unless I suspect a complete tear because I think it is a waste of money. So I've got pathology, I've got degenerative changes in my MRI. So what? I don't care what that is as long as you can function, as long as you can load the tendon. Of course, that will show you a better picture of what you've got, but the pathology or structural damage is not gonna change. It can't be repaired. It's proven to be unfixable according to many studies. This study says even though the participants have improved after 24 weeks of eccentric calf exercises, the MRI didn't show any change from the baseline in their Achilles tendon structure. So what I always tell my patients is this: no matter what you do, your degenerated tendon cannot be repaired. But you've got plenty of good tissues you can work with. So don't lose your hope. So I will show you how to treat the donut in my next video. Thank you for watching and I will see you next time. 안전 좋아요. 와, 그림 이거 그리는데 와 이리 어렵노?